Hi. So, hello. Hello. So, I turned off commenting because some of y'all don't know how to practice good security culture. So, my brilliant comrade idea was to turn off commenting and allow y'all to, ask the questions in other means, which there was some that were pulled up. Let's see. I just saw them. There was like 4 or 5. In any case, we might open it back up if but I'm gonna bring the homie in right now. La Maria, could you request to come in? Let's see. Okay. I think it's gonna happen. It's always so weird because I don't know if anyone can hear me. But throw me some hearts if you can hear me. Heart, 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 heart. Heart, heart, heart. Okay, thanks. Waiting on connection. Connected. Hi.
Oh, hello.
Hello, comrade.
What's up? What's up?
Oh, okay. Let me get this. Because I did write things down this time.
Nice.
Okay. Well,
Shit.
here we are. How are you? How have you been?
I'm good. I'm thriving in this time of mandatory masking up.
Truly, truly.
Definitely in my element. Um, really astounded when folks don't take the advantage to just be masked up at any point in time and try to pull off some shit that maybe you couldn't normally.
Mm. Yo, I was talking to other trans folks about that and how it's just so nice to be masked and be in public spaces too, because you get less harassment and same thing you can do, just live your life, with the masks on. So yeah.
Yeah, how you doing today?
I'm good. I'm way less all over the place than I was yesterday. And yeah, luckily I have some people working with me on just setting and everything. These aren't my lights. Obviously, I'm not as invested in this. But feeling good today. Yeah. Well, not really well rested, but more well rested than yesterday. What about you? How's your rest been?
I mean, not the best, but I think I think it comes in waves, you know? Like you
Mm-hmm.
gotta
Mm-hmm.
I kind of have to like ride the energy when it comes and like the
Right.
inspiration and the motivation to do the work, because then shit can get really heavy at other points and then
Mm.
that's probably not the healthiest approach, but
Right.
that's
Right.
what goes down
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the reason why I wanted to talk to you about specifically these topics was because this definitely is our shit. And now more than ever, I think is the time to really have open conversations about what security culture actually is, what anonymity means and is, as well as autonomy, because I feel like there's a lot of misinformation about all of these things, and I just thought you were a good person to bring in to have this conversation, because since I've known you, you've just been hella down and also really on point about your own security culture, and just yeah, I've really appreciated that about you and your work, and it's always been just very not really needing to be clout chasey, or not needing that kind of approval. So yeah, that's why I was just let me get La Maria to have this conversation.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I appreciate the invitation. I think it's such a important conversation in these times of like hyper surveillance
Mm,
by the state, but also by like just people around you that collect information and like want to know shit for no other reason than that's they're interested in it.
mm-hmm.
And I think that there's a precedent set by a lot of folks to just be I got nothing to hide. It's like and that
Mm,
reminds me of stuff with like the cops of being like, oh yeah, you can search my vehicle, like I have nothing to hide. If you have nothing to hide, then why are you why wouldn't you let me do this? And it's not about that, right? Like it's about, I think, especially for like BIPOC folks, like having boundaries and
mm,
being like, nah, like you don't get full access to all of me. Like I share what I want to share when I can,
right.
um, and the rest is not for you to claim. So yeah, there's a lot of different motivations for myself, and I've definitely seen uh, I've seen you exercise those boundaries. I think in a way that can be really, empowering and like fucking inspirational to be like, these are my terms,
Mm,
and that's really fucking uncomfortable for people to accept
mm-hmm,
sometimes.
mm-hmm. Truly, truly. I guess I want to ask what do you feel about, well, why are you yeah, just why are you anonymous? Like what's the anonymity, that, like, why would you be masked up, and what is that?
I mean, okay, so lots of reasons. I think initially, actually, I'm wearing this shirt from Sub Media. Shout
Oh.
out to them. Their group and specifically like the stimulators work was one of the first things where I realized like you can have a reach and you can have an impact and you can do your work without having to plaster your face on everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't like detract from the message. It can actually kind of magnify it because folks aren't, there's not this person that can be identified as having, as being associated with something. And I think it also is like, I don't know about obviously, but like
Mm-hmm.
for me, the Zapatistas movement and just a lot of movements where folks did shit underground
Mm-hmm.
is something that's really motivating for me. And there's, so many people like lost to history because they wanted it that way. Not because their story never got told, not because it got forgotten, because they wanted to pull some shit off without it being attributed to them, because it's more about the action than the
Mm-hmm.
glory or the going down in history or some shit. So those are a couple reasons. A couple more is because I've been doing this music stuff for a minute, and
Mm-hmm.
I think the degree of ego that I saw in the music scene, just like some people can spit, people are really talented. That doesn't mean that they are they can't cause harm. And I think that there was kind of like a pass given to a lot of like predatorial folks that really came in to claim some shit, would come in to claim some work that wasn't necessarily theirs to claim.
Oof.
There's also a lot of folks who who put pen to paper and like are able to encapsulate and like do justice and honor movements. So I appreciate those folks as well. But I think for me it was a lot of like maneuvering in the music scene, and like it was just bizarre. It was a trip to me to show up to a space and automatically have people like, oh, like I'll take care of everything you need, like whatever you need, we got you. But that wasn't being given. That kind of like appreciation or accommodation wasn't being given to other folks in the space who put in mad work, and it
Mm-hmm.
was just like a very individualized, like hyper focus on one person, and you know, maybe I would be getting, yeah, I would be getting like really hospitable treatment, but like the folks I was rolling with weren't even like being introduced, you know, to each other, and even being acknowledged in the space. And I was just like, this is not how I choose to engage with folks. And I was just like, well, if nobody knows who the fuck I am, I'm gonna check in with the sound person and whoever's gonna sign my check, and like that's all who needs to know. I'm in and I'm out, and then like I can engage with the folks who I feel called to outside of just, you know, there's just always so many people that be like, oh, because you're on stage, because you have the platform, then you are who is, then you're the person that they want to hear from. But so many people have shit to say, you know, and especially like as a female assumed person all the time, like there's so many other women and femmes that like don't ever get heard.
Right.
So for it to just be me and me be determined to be a spokesperson is just, it just felt fucking gross.
Yeah. Oh, wow. All of that. You better say that. I mean, just the fact that people, like, knowing that people are taking advantage of those particular hierarchies is like a skill on its own, you know, like just seeing how, just clocking it when it's happening. And I feel like that's for me, I feel also similar in that I don't want people pedestalizing or idealizing me, and like I continue to say those things because it's not just on, so you know, it's like, yeah, we want to be humble, we want to keep to the earth, we want to be grounded, we don't want to lose sight of who we are, but it's also a tactic. Like, quit attributing certain things to certain people, because those people often end up taken out, you know, straight up taken out. Look at all of our movement leaders, look at all of these organizations. It's like, that to me made me acknowledge that if we did start applying decentralized tactics in our everyday, in our culture, it could easily be something that's less targeted, you know. And I've said this before to other comrades that are like trying to recruit and build their like mass base, and I'm just like, y'all got like, I feel like it would mean something more to organize the neighborhood based on affiliation and networks than having attribute that to a specific organization.
Mm-hmm.
And when it becomes super oriented around the organization, issues may occur, like when issues with sexual harassment or internal conflict arise. It often is not it's not highlighted as an issue of morale, and how morale is really important to upkeep the kind of momentum that your organization might have. It's often tabled and seen as not part of the work, not necessary. So like, I think there's so many things that are relevant to this conversation.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, but like, I've seen that too. You know, a lot of people, they earn a lot of clout and they really take advantage of their positions within movement work, and then they're untouchable, and like they use their, you know, good work or real work to supersede or absolve themselves from accountability, and they're not accountable to anyone because of their platform or because of their popularity. So yeah, I fucks with that reason.
Did you see that meme that was like, if you're gonna start an occupation, like the first rule is like no one with clout is allowed inside. If you have clout, like don't try to start an
Ooh,
occupation.
yeah, totally. Like, you know, because like they're gonna, it's like the inclination to start calling the shots and
Mm-hmm.
you know, be the person to manage every. It's like, it's really gross how celebrity or almost like clout and being seen is equated to leadership by default because of that. And it's like, no, like we're not actually, you know, I think we should be more critical of that, be more critical of how we've been socialized, you know, among these kinds of social hierarchies. So I did write things down. Good thing. Because I can rant. I guess I also wanted to talk, I mean, kind of on the subject of autonomy, like what is autonomy to you? Like, how would you describe that?
That's such a big question, and that's definitely something that like I think is really hard to name sometimes because so few of us have experienced it often enough. You know, like it's a thing that's like few and far between for us.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think within the realm of anonymity, I think that there's like certain expectations that come when you are a very public person, um, demands that are made of people when you present yourself in a certain way. And I think that that's like, yeah, that's definitely another reason for the anonymity is to really be able to like create my own narrative, you know,
Yeah,
to
no, or counter narrative at
yeah,
least.
legit. But I
um,
think it's really hard for folks to like. I think that there's a lot of fatigue that comes from people trying to maintain anonymity over like a long period of time. And something that's helped me in really establishing like how I want to do it is the idea of like understanding what what or who is trying to find out what you are, who you are, and why, and kind of being able to scale from that. So, you know, if you're like pulled off some wild shit, if you're on the run, if you're like most wanted or whatever, right? Your level of anonymity has to be on a whole other, you know, just realm that that happens, you know, and that's not necessarily where I'm at all the time, thankfully. But you know, there are spaces that I want to be able to move into without being um affiliated, right? It is the idea of having an underground, having things that are out of sight, and that in order to be able to move around in the day to day without being like interrogated for the other things that you choose to do. But it's hard for people to like accept it sometimes. Like my mom just tells like my family, because I don't have social media like on a regular basis, she's just like she's just really you know, like introverted and keeps to herself. And I'm like, yeah, kind of, but also like I'm not trying
right.
to put like all my whole family tree on the
Mhm.
internet. Like what is that? Like that's complete, that's just wild. I understand people like may not need to have that security, but
Yeah,
there's
you know, I mean, it's really, I think definitely cyber security is really, really important. Just growing surveillance makes it almost like people just don't they don't give a fucks about those aspects of organizing a movement. And like I see one of my friends today actually was just we were talking a little bit about security culture. And I guess I'll ask, you know, the question of what it is. But he was just like, I think a lot of younger people don't know what security culture is. And I was like, oh my goodness, like that could be a thing. And also they're also having to navigate the you know, the internet, and like how there's like an urge to platform yourself and use that platform and be seen. And I'm really on my I'm really conflicted regarding like visibility right now, because there's like I feel like there's a need for especially Black
mhm,
trans people to be more visible while we face these kinds of like adversities of anti-Blackness, transphobia, femphobia, ableism, you know, there's so many things. I think it's good to see other people like you out there, but I'm also conflicted because I'm like, well, I don't want to be out there too much because
Right.
there's other things, you know, that like I just feel, for me, I feel there's so, the reason why anonymity, or the reason why I read about this a little bit when I read my zine, is it does challenge the ego. It challenges that kind of ego inflation, and it challenges the motivation behind what you're actually doing. If you can go out and feed people every Sunday for years and years and years without, you know, really putting it out there that you like, it's like people are obviously gonna know on the ground,
Right.
but you don't have to put it online. You know, it's like, yeah, you don't have to like say that you helped a homeless man go across the bridge. Like, it's like, it
Put a
doesn't
video
need
up of
to
them
be
crying and
publicized, you know, like that. Because it's so, I don't know what the word is, but it's like very I don't know, like superficial, or just like, yeah, there it doesn't need to be brought in that, or like spotlighted in that way where you have to like tweet every time you do a good deed, because if you don't have an audience, like, are you gonna still do that? Like, is that your only motivation if you're getting kudos or likes or hearts every single time you do a good thing for somebody? So that's, I think, like, me and a lot of other down ass comrades have really put that in our practice, and like I can tell and see who else does, and I, you know, want to challenge the people who don't do that, like, you know, with some things that, you know, like some like online things of like fundraisers, for example, why people love to announce when they donated. It's like, you don't need to announce or comment that you donated, homie. Like, just do it. Just do it, and like, that's it. Like, like, reparations, yeah, you did it. Like, you should just feel good about doing it. You should be honored. You should be honored that your ancestors know that this happened. You and your ancestors.
That's legit. Like something that I have written down on my notebook is what work would you choose to do if nobody knew about it? Would you still do what you do if
Mm-hmm.
nobody could know about it, if you weren't allowed to post about it?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, you know, for a lot of folks it is, and I feel you on being torn because I think it's, yeah, it is like self-aggrandizing and like pat yourself on the back. And then I've also seen folks that are like, hey, I did this, I need everybody that follows me to do this shit today, and it's like amplifying it,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Yeah.
it is just like, I think it's like a thing that people have to work through on their own, and like be able to share and to encourage others to do the same thing. And I
Right.
think there has to be just like a internal ethics about it, because I, you know, we do need to talk about it. We do need to talk about, you know, if someone is gonna like hand over a land deed or something,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, publicize that shit, you feel me?
Right.
Like, yeah, all my other, like, you know, trust fund babies that are inheriting properties, like, this is who you can redirect your land
Right.
to.
Truly.
um but yeah, it is, it's would they still do it, right, if they couldn't? And that's, I don't
Yeah.
know how easy it is to get an answer to that question.
Right. It is. Yeah. It is like, you know, I've definitely fucks with propaganda by the deed. I was doing that, you know, for a hot minute. Just was like, but I don't know. There's ways I think people can go about it that isn't wholly self-aggrandizing. It's like,
Yeah.
if that is the, I feel like the part of posting about it becomes the central piece, versus the action itself, then maybe,
Yeah.
you know.
Shit. So I'm trying to set up this thing with the ready
I
for
don't know
that.
if oh, okay. I was like, I was thinking less. But autonomy. So I guess with autonomy, similarly, there's a lot of misinformation on that. Um, for me, there is individual autonomy, right, which is basically how the state would define it. and then there's like a collective autonomy, but
Mm-hmm.
collective autonomous movements like, or autonomous communities like the Zapatistas, who are organizing themselves autonomously against like bad governments, corporations, etc. Like Move was an autonomous
Mm-hmm.
action or organization. You know, they were working on, you know, building their autonomy. And I think there's a lot of, yeah, just misunderstanding around what it is. I just wanted some of your perspective on like what you mean by like autonomy, like gender autonomy, bodily autonomy, Black autonomy, Indigenous autonomy. Like, what does that mean to you, or is that like part of like your, I guess, like your practice, your motivation? Are you, you know, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it is like, um, I think a lot of it is, first of all, just like doing things without needing the permission. Sorry, is this glitching out a little bit?
Mhm. A little
Um,
bit. You know what's a good thing I have told people is helpful if you put your phone on airplane mode if you have internet Wi-Fi or whatever. It's
okay.
like, and then yeah, so you put it on airplane, but you might cut out, but I'll just add you again if you do that. Um, yeah, but
Yeah, I think I got it.
mhm. Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I think first and foremost, it is just like not needing permission or permits or any kind of like approval from illegitimate like government
Mm-hmm.
institutions, right? So like these are the movements, the actions, the organizing that I choose to take part in are, you know, led by the communities that they affect. Um,
Mm.
and I think like for me too, it is rooted in the idea of like the stewardship that the indigenous peoples of whichever territory I'm in and being an
Mm-hmm.
accomplice to are focused on at the time. And
Mm-hmm.
that is who, you know, I work with, and that is the leadership that and the I mean, you know, the requests that I try to honor and where I put my work into. So I think that's like the very foundation for me. And I think like if anything doesn't fall into those categories, or doesn't meet that standard, then it's not something that for myself I consider autonomous work. And
Mm.
you know, there's always holding respect for the people who have been doing the work in the area for a long time, aligning yourself with the efforts that like are going to that have been in place, and yeah, I think that's definitely a start for what I look for or what I consider when I'm working on a project.
Word. Yeah, I fucks with that. And I would say that we don't want fans. We want accomplices. Accomplices, not fans. Like,
Mhm.
like I don't need that.
Yeah,
I want you to be on my, you know, on my page, on my level. Like it's not, you don't have to pedestalize or idealize. It's cool. Um, I think,
can I say something to that
well,
real?
yes.
Because I feel like so I have been on like all native lineups, right? With like
Mhm.
water protectors, land defenders, and been in spaces where white folks come up and they're like, you guys are like superheroes. Like literally, like
Yeah.
y'all are like more than human, which is like such a fucking bizarre thing to say to someone because like we are people that are
Mhm.
fucking tired, and
Mhm.
it's not like we, you know, we can do the work that that makes sense for where we come from, for our, you know, affiliations, our families, our ancestry. Sure, like there's some shit that white people can't do that we could do. But I think that like pedestalizing is like it's also fucking dehumanizing. And I know that there's,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I've heard some of your critiques about like, you know, centering things around like humans and specifically, but you know what I mean? Like just in,
Mm-hmm.
it is dehumanizing in a way, where it's like, nah, like y'all need to get to work too, and y'all aren't absolved of responsibilities because you think that we have some fucking superpowers and
Right.
are just destined to do this backbreaking, like exhausting, draining work. Like that is also up to you. You can do
Yup.
this. And I think it is with white folks, but it's also I think sometimes with like, you know, yeah, younger folks or even yeah, whatever people our age that are like, oh, you know, I can't do that. They
Yo.
do that. They do that. And that's not like everybody has a place in this. Everybody has work that they can offer. Whatever it might be, like we need it. Like we need
Right.
more people to do it. We don't need the same 5, 10, 30 people to always be coming up with the same answers because we're weaker that way. You know, we're stronger with people's perspectives. We're stronger with other people's efforts. So that's yeah, that pedestalizing things is a disservice to the move to any movement that you're a part of, and it's a
Mm-hmm.
disservice to like the gifts that individuals have that they need to honor. And someone else's gifts and someone else's motivations don't like detract from your own. And then the other thing that came to mind was just being like, as far as like, I feel like we touched on this a little bit, but like, I also feel like, you know, all of us, when we're sharing ideas, when we're sharing our art, our music, whatever it might be, like it's drawing from so many inspirations. It's drawing from so many different people that we've learned from, teachings that have been
Right.
passed down to us, other people's like genius and like, you know, I think a lot of times it can just be claimed, right? Like that's kind of what we were talking about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Because just because someone else hasn't heard of it doesn't mean that I'm like, you know, just because I'm the first, it's the first time you heard someone say it was through me doesn't mean that it was like my invention. Like I can't claim that shit. So,
Right.
you know,
Right.
to
Mm-hmm.
say that, like to
Mm-hmm.
honor all the people that have spent the time to help educate me, to help share their stories, to help share, you know, like their paths is the only reason why I'm here, and that's the only way that we can like continue to build up capacity. This thing keeps pausing. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's like you might think an individual person is prolific or brilliant or whatever, but it's like it's really true that like that people don't come up with these ideas all in a vacuum all on their own. Um, I appreciate that because you know it's like it's not. I think it yeah, and it also definitely with people being like, "Oh, I really really appreciate what you're doing, all the work you're doing." And they're not in it. They're not, you know, lifting a finger to do the same when it's like I don't think that the things that we are doing in terms of like mutual aid support and what have you are are so separate from like what other you know what other people's daily lives are, especially now when like you have your you know people who are suffering like and you have access to resources. How can you accommodate? How can they help accommodate? And you know it just becomes mutual.
Yeah.
And that's why I fuck so heavy with like yeah, like anarchists and like indigenous folk, because they, you know, black people, people of color, it's just more they know that it's just kind of it's necessary. It's been necessary for centuries now. So yeah, I really appreciate that.
Hey, I'm gonna be back in like
Okay.
20 seconds because I need to set this up in a little bit more
Yeah, do
reasonable
you
way.
have yeah, just try the what is it? The
Just my charger is like glitching and I need to get a different one because it keeps like cutting out. But
okay,
I'll be right back.
okay. That's cool. Yeah, just request and
Okay.
I'll let you back in. All right. Well, for now, I want to maybe answer some questions that were sent to us. So this one is from the homie. Any advice for baby anarchists or people who are being radicalized in the present time? Well, I think that the present time is a lot. Y'all are going through the most. And I really want to, I guess, highlight, yeah, for the younger people, I think it's, I can't imagine being like radicalized in this moment. Some people were like radicalized by like when Bernie was like, yo, vote, Biden or whomever. I don't even know who he was because I already wasn't really following that because I don't really fuss with electoral reform and how it establishes colonization in those ways. But I would say, yeah, just not like listen to your elders because like I think elders they can have their own kind of neo-colonial perspectives, or they can also be the ones who sell out land or not call out institutions that they might be in bed with, or like sell their indigenous practices to like particular people. I was answering one of the questions of
Oh, cool. You can see the questions?
oh yeah. I found a way to do that. I feel so like I'm like, how does that happen? But yeah, there's like there's at least like six. But we can get to them in the last like maybe 10 minutes of the thing. But yeah, for the real pressing question of the evening, which which I'll probably end up posting a lot of information on the topic for people who don't know, because like just a 20-minute conversation on the subject of security culture is not is not a
Mhm.
you need way more perspective. But yeah, what is security culture? How would you define that?
God, big questions. Oh, big questions.
I have a few things written down.
I mean, I think for me, it's like not doing the cops work for them. Like that is like principally
Mm.
like is being like don't snitch. Like don't be a snitch. Don't snitch on yourself. Don't snitch on your
And
friends.
don't snitch jacket, y'all. If you don't know what snitch jacketing or cop jacketing is, it is accusing everyone around you being police when they're not.
Hmm.
Or not when they're not. When you don't have evidence, when you don't have substantiated evidence, because it creates cultures of paranoia. But yeah, there's information on that. But continue.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's the basis for it. I think it's really like kind of coming out of like the naive mindset that like, you know, like all technology is like fair, or like the great
Mm-hmm.
equalizer or some shit, or that it's like there's not like sinister like shit underlying data mining, and
Mm-hmm.
that, our information is like sold without our consent, and people there's folks that are getting rich off of that. That's definitely one concern, and that like shit can come back to you, and it has to be like a sustained effort of really being able to like let go of things you've done in the past, even if you want to brag, even if you want to, the whole you're really proud of it or something,
Mm-hmm.
because there are, like we're being mapped, like our affiliations are being mapped, our families, our networks, and even if it's not being used today, doesn't mean it can't be used tomorrow. So it's like really establishing and like having conversations and agreements with people around you and people that you work with about, how to keep yourselves safe. It's like I think it's a form of self-defense.
Right.
Uh, yeah.
Right. Yeah, no, I think also another helpful um tenet of security culture is uh yeah, need to know basis. Like
Hmm.
if there are, say there's, you know, a direct action that people are planning or did, other people outside of the direct action planning, they don't necessarily need to know that anything outside of it. So it's like, yeah, the just point period blank. Like there's no need to talk about it. And like you said, like there I feel like now with the younger people, there's like, oof, having to deal with it, with the culture of like online, you know, bragging, or like online, like me and some other comrades were seeing like other people just show how, like, this is how you do a banner job, and they have videos of them doing a banner job, and it's like, like, don't show that you're the one doing the banner job, or that you know, this is how you do wheat pasting, or like, you know, just having these like, and like, please tag me like on my instructions and my picture of myself like vandalizing this this thing right here. And it's like, y'all are gonna get caught up, like you might not have been caught up in this moment, but their repression is historically real.
Hmm.
And there have been times where, yeah, where people might not have been caught up in the moment, but there have been other times where cities have collected data on all of the times you have vandalized around the city. And then they send you pictures, they send you an invoice. They're like, this is what you owe the city now. So, you know, that kind of repression is real, and people don't take into account that, yeah, there are definitely consequences
Hmm.
to, you know, it I feel like, yeah, it goes hand in hand with the idea of like boasting and bragging. And it's like, it does help you work on your own shit and your like motivations and everything, but it's also just like, I think what's really important is acknowledging how, because I there's like comments that like we know, right, who are just like, yeah, what's the operational security like? And like, I appreciate, it's like, I fucks with the language or whatever, but it's very like militaristic. And I think the difference between military protocol and culture, security culture, is
Hmm.
that for military, it is just a protocol, and in that moment, when you take into account
Right.
the cultural aspect of not being like, hey, telling everybody your damn business what you did, I think that becomes more habitual. It becomes like, you know, just kind of, it's things that it's culture. You automatically start doing these things to secure your crew, your efforts. Yeah, just on some, you know, on some security shit.
Yeah, and I think like I absolutely have learned a lot from like the military like documents and handbooks and stuff, and I
Mhm,
think that there's value in like, study the police and study
mhm,
your
mhm.
enemy and understand how they operate, and but like, do we that's not who we want to be,
No.
like we don't want to militarize ourselves in the way of like the US government. Like we can
Baby, no.
but we can have, we can figure out our ways to defend ourselves. We can figure out ways to maintain our autonomy, and it doesn't have to
Truly.
be in their footsteps. Like that's not the way.
I think some other things, yeah, I wrote down, just assume that wired and wireless comms are already bugged. So, don't, like, planning things in online. It's like, you know, I'm down with like Google Docs if it's just information, you're showing information. If you're, but planning a thing, planning a direct action, planning like a barricade, you know, there's like, don't do it, don't organize that online. That's definitely a no. And then, yeah, don't ask, don't tell, don't brag.
Not
uh,
even in 5 years, not even in 10. Like,
right, yeah, I mean, and I definitely feel like there have been times where I want to impress like some cute boy or whatever, and I'm like, yeah, like we totally X, Y, and Z that, you know, it's like there have been moments where I'm just like, fuck, did I like really do that right now? I should have like, you know, scale back and like
That's
not.
your sexy talk. You saw that shit? That
Oh
was me.
yeah,
That's me.
that one time we took over XYZ.
That's a certain type. That's a certain type that'll fall for that one.
But no, it's real. It's like they don't need to know, because that's the other thing. It's like you are, I feel like with other efforts in terms of anonymity as well, I think there's also the idea that you know, if you do have it, like if you have a reputation, right, and you're serving people who need resources, I think it's really important not for your reputation to not also affect the people that you're serving as well, because I've seen other people do the like um the actions or the mutual aid work that is really highlighting, you know, the people for almost for, what is it called, like there's a term for it. It's like, it's not trauma porn, but it's like you're using people as like a backdrop for clout. Like it's like you're using like
Like
real,
poverty,
huh?
poverty porn. That's one.
Something like that, where it's like you're using people's like terrible like experiences to prop up your own popularity, or you know, it's like it's really just like dystopic. But what I've seen happen over time is not only are the people that are openly doing that ending up getting targeted, but the people that they're with and affiliated with and helping directly and supporting are also catching a case, because you
Right.
know, yeah.
Yeah. And I think like, I don't know, I just think about it like that makes me think of like community efforts where you're like, yeah, trying to get shit to like kids or like undocumented folk
Mm,
and like, you know, you can be super militant, but the senoras don't want that shit. They don't want that
mm,
heat in like
right.
in their community.
They don't
So yeah,
do that.
I feel that.
Also, oh yeah, highlighting that it is, if a person is a security risk or not, like if it means like when organizing, and fear you are organizing by way of affinity and friendship and everything, it's a good way to regard whether you know this person's like history before movement, before, you know, if they have, you talk to their family, just like having, you know, levels of trust, and establishing if they are a security risk, because not only are police and informants security risks, but also I want to treat sexist and misogynist and transphobic people the same way. Like that could be a huge security risk for an action or goal. Uh, yeah. So that is like really something that is, especially now. Like I'm sure a lot of people know the issue with like in Los Angeles regarding like just like people having a reputation to in attacking other communities but
Mm.
violently. I feel like, well, that breaks security culture, that isn't practicing safe security culture. If somebody has a history of abuse, then how are they in a position of like being the person that's gathering all the emails, or being, you know, it's like
Yeah,
that should
that's
be,
a liability. Like that's a
yeah,
liability
you know,
to your work. It's a liability to like people trusting. Like that breaks trust when people do that kind of harm. That's legit.
right. So not only does it minimize risk, security culture minimizes the risk, but it also assesses yeah, people's safety, their security, and if they are trustworthy. But it can also keep you from getting caught up, catching a case, or getting arrested.
Yeah.
So that is, yeah, that's really, really, really important at this time, because just with the amount of people that are filming people's faces, filming you know what, I guess
Everything,
everything
everything.
really. I mean, it's like I think people think, I mean, at least like a few years ago, I think like people who are like a decade younger than me were thinking, you know, the being black, indigenous, Filipina, it's like, you know, it don't crack, none of it crack. So people really are younger, and they're like, my I don't know. It's like it's just it's like a completely different culture for me of like filming, like everything that you're doing, and I'm just like, like I didn't want to be like in this video, this non-consensual video, like y'all asking each other, and like I wish that like no one's really asking anymore for permission if like they can just film you all
I mean,
over
I
the
think
place.
that's a really good point too about like consent, like consent
Mm,
to be broadcast in that way. And I think we don't have a very good culture of consent in a
no.
lot of our communities, and especially when people are like, showing up to stuff for the first couple times, and there's like, certain folks that are like, no, this is the way we want to operate,
You're
and
right.
there's not agreement. So I appreciate this being like a topic, because I think it has to be an ongoing topic, because
Right.
there's thankfully right now there's a lot of people that are like getting with it, and like trying to support efforts and showing up and
Mhm.
showing out, and like that's what's up. But we also need it to not be endangering folks, and really
Yes.
risking people's freedom and like well-being in the long term.
Mm-hmm. I'm still mad that you were critiquing my sexy talk. Anyway.
I was like, ooh, stop.
Oh, oh wow.
That shit would work on me. I'd be like, did you? I won't tell
Anyway,
anyone.
anyway. We're gonna in the last 5 minutes we're gonna answer more question. This one is from the homie. What are some good security measures to take during protests?
Hmm. If you take good
Oh.
security measures, you're probably going to be like really hot, because you might have like clothing that's too big for you, stuff to cover up tattoos. This shit is mad uncomfortable,
Mm.
but you also might like look pretty goofy, because I've seen people like dressed up in like ridiculous, colorful trench coats and like bathrobes, and just like some silly shit that you might not normally wear, because
Mhm.
it's some shit that you picked up at the fucking thrift store and are down to get rid of, so it's never tied to you again.
Right.
So you might be hot and you might look a little goofy, and then we can't get all your like militant aesthetic on all the time.
That's good advice, I think. Um advice for dealing with a white infiltrator, abuse in your community, from
Ooh.
another comrade. Um, I mean, shit, like abuse in your community. So there is this idea that people shouldn't practice transformative justice work unless they have the expertise regarding how to heal, help heal people's trauma. And I think there's flaws in that argument, only because you say you're at an action camp, nobody's trained on dealing, with that kind of issue of like, how do we deal with this person that like straight up fucked up like the homies XYZ? Like it's like, or somebody who assaulted another person. It's like if y'all just need to dig deep into like your capacity to resolve the issue. Otherwise, like sanction, it's like if it's real like small community, small like 20-30 people, I think that it's worth sanctioning. It's worth, like, if you don't have the skills to like help them transform and acknowledge their behavior and things like that and convince them that them changing benefits not only them but everybody else. And I guess people, you know, it's like we live in a narcissistic society, individualist society, so like it's hard for people to see that, like, oh, me transforming myself actually betters like everybody else around me, you know, like so convincing them of that, but if not, then they gotta fucking go. Like, I don't, you know, I don't know what do you think?
I mean, I think it's just there could be so many details to that would
Right.
really, you know, the depending on the situation, depending on what they did. I think you know, maybe that's something that we could share, and just adding more like resources. There's a
Mm,
lot of groups that do like BIPOC groups that can you know, have that kind of expertise or whatever, have that experience and can help facilitate something in that way. So I think that's just a really loaded question that's hard to answer in a short time.
right.
But before the next question, I did just want to shout out the Baby Anarchist fam, because like
Mm,
this is so fucking dope. Like I really appreciate you doing this week. This whole takeover I think has been super, like it's just what I think a lot of folks wanted to hear and wanted to learn about right now. And they just fucking their art is so fucking
it's
cute.
so
And
cute.
and I think, yeah, you know, like one of the conversations I had with them was about like really being like, yeah, you know, like security culture doesn't have to be scary, and like being, you know, like having the beliefs that we have and doing the work that we do doesn't have to be some shit that people are scared of. Like folks can join in on this, and you know, I was just like, damn, that's what's up. I hadn't perceived it that way, but they've done such good work with this platform and showing up for community, and I love y'all.
Right, from individuals to organizations to collectives, it's just like it's brilliant, it's on point. You're appropriating some like whack ass like old shit that wasn't rad. This is, you know, a hella rad page.
This is
So
better.
if you're not following, please do. And yeah, I was gonna like, dang, I'm like, should I turn back the I was thinking of turning the comments on in the last few seconds just so, but like I'm worried that people are gonna be like, oh my goodness, are y'all gonna talk about X, Y, and Z? And just like, you know, just like break security culture. That would be awful. But we
What
only have like probably like 4 minutes left.
what do you want to turn it on for?
Hums.
What did you want to turn it on for?
Oh, because I wanted people to possibly tag like I know that Mama Jules needs money like
Mm.
constantly. I don't know Mama Jules's particular
Well, you're gonna post this, right?
thing. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
gonna post that and I can just put that inside of the description of the You're brilliant.
But people
Okay.
can also like put comments on the video.
Yes.
So if they have anything they need to add too, yeah.
Right. There are. Oh, we have the 2 minute where we have 1 minute and 30 seconds. Do you wanna you have anything else to say regarding the topics of?
I mean, I don't, you know, I think it's a lifelong learning process. We don't live in a culture that promotes this type of approach to things. So like you might feel a little, you know, not, it's just, yeah, it's, you might not feel supported.
Mm,
But there's a lot of really good resources, and, you know, don't be overwhelmed because it's critical. Like if folks are serious about enacting lasting change
right.
and being able to move in ways that are healthier for everyone, for the land, for each other, then there's gonna have to be a lot of shifts, and this is one of them.
Yup. And damn it, if y'all don't wear your mask and wash your hands, your distance. um, but yeah, no, it is like a huge, like with pandemic plus police, the escalation of literally, yeah, the execution of Black people publicly, as well. Just all sorts of people are being killed by the police. It's really scary. It's really wild, and I hope that people can just get in where they fit in, you know, spread the word what you heard. I don't but on that note, we got like 5 seconds and got
Okay, I'm
about
gonna take my mask off now.
no.
No,
Stay dangerous, y'all. Bye.